Let's talk about cash flow. So what kind of capital funding do you recommend for companies that want to go to $1 million or more? What kind of cash flow management do you need to have in place that doesn't dry up on you? Any tips on that?
Don't take on unnecessary debt. I mean, start the process, but like I should have started getting credit for my business sooner. I didn't. I've only done that for the last maybe 3 years or something like that. But I went over 10 years with just cash, right? So yeah, we grew to a couple $1 million with no debt, with no, when I bought a vehicle, Adam, again, when we met, I was driving, I had $1,000 truck. I literally paid $1,000 for this truck and it was earning $2-3 grand a day, right? And so I think that, if you're going to grow your company, I don't think that you need to take on an unreasonable amount of debt. Now with that, start the process. Go ahead and get an LLC, go ahead and get your credit, start building that. But when you get a credit card, don't use it like a credit card, use it like a debit card, pay it off twice a month. Don't go out and buy a $100,000 truck if you don't have the money in the bank. Right? If you're like, I can't afford to buy this tool, but I need it to complete a job, maybe you shouldn't take on that job, right? I think, again, everything that you do should be profitable. And in the back of your mind, you should always say, if this goes sideways, is it going to be detrimental to the company as a whole? Because keep in mind, if your company goes under, then everybody that works for you is going under, right? You got how many people in your organization that literally you're putting food on their table? And I think that most business owners, at least me, sometimes I stay up at night and I'm like, if I make a bad decision, this is going to affect a lot of people. And I think that debt is one of those things that you can very quickly get out of hand. If you know how to leverage it, awesome, right? But I think that you should be able to grow without it and use it like a bank account, like a debit card, where you can get by without it, but you're building it.
I would say if we take it back to when you're starting your business, make sure you can get personal lending before. In Canada, the banks don't really recognize you as a business for the first 2 years. So if you're not, so if you're not successful, you don't have a track record, they want to see that. So I would say, get a good accountant to understand your cash flow, because you're not going to know what it means or how to understand it if you don't have someone explaining yours behind you. But then also understanding that your banking partners, some of the best advice, as I said, it's like when you go to your mortgage broker and they don't have a mortgage, right? So when you go to your banker, but they don't have a business, right? Yes, maybe they've seen some businesses, but as you start in the small business world, understand the other side of the desk. That person is in an entry-level business banking position. They're in small business banking. A lot of the times that is just a stepping stone into commercial banking. A lot of the times that's just a stepping stone into private wealth management. So understanding that you're not dealing with the expert all the time, but you're dealing with somebody that has guidelines. And so if you can reverse engineer your needs from the bank's guidelines, it's the best advice I ever got. And once I kind of understood that, and it's not manipulating, it's playing by the rules and playing by their rules. So going to the bank and saying, listen, we've got this new job coming up. There's 60-day terms on the payment. It's legally binding. I just need to take on the job and have the cash flow to do it. It's a profitable opportunity. And then you can come in with the right amount of paperwork and say, okay, listen, that's how we're going to take this job on. Or, kind of like you said, with that tool, we're going to be able to take this job on, and this job's going to pay for that tool. And then now we've got that tool for the rest of our business's life cycle. You don't want to do it, and I think we're agreeing on that. You don't want to do it to the point of like, it's not really risk. It's just like you're just shooting from the hip all the time.
Yeah. Structured debt. The difference between structured debt and just racking up maxing out your credit card, right?
Yeah.
And you also need to understand there's different types of credit. Exactly to your point. You got to understand, what do banks want to lend to you? Well, they want a return on their money, right? So that's what they're looking for. It is similar in the States. They want 2-3 years worth of history. And so that's why I'm saying start out small. Right? Start out with a $500 credit card if that's all you can, qualify for or something like that. But start building that out, and then do other things. I mean, there's lines of credit. There's invoice factoring, which is what you were kind of referring to, I believe, where you say, hey, we got a big job it's under contract. We just want to upfront on our money, and if that job is going to be a 20% profit and the debt only costs you 3%, 5%, like all day, every day, yeah, let's go for that. But you got to be a little financial literate so you don't get in over your head.
Yeah. I think the best, we talk about scale and over that $1 million threshold, the best thing you can do is have an in-house bookkeeper. By far, I highly recommend it. A lot of the times they will do part-time work, but in-house is the critical thing there. In-house bookkeeping. You want to know your numbers as quickly as you can. Outsourced bookkeeping, it's going to be every month. So maybe get them at the 15th of every month. That's not effective. That's reactive decision making. When you can say, hey, how was this week doing? Okay, there we go. Let's go. Let's make a decision based on that. Well, how are we looking this month? Listen, there's some extra cash flow. Let's buy that tool. That tool is really going to pay us off, and it's going to set us up for next month. Absolutely. Okay, you know what? The trucks need some oil changes. That $1,000 truck needs new tires, right? But also, if things are tight, you know what, man? Let's work Saturday or Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Let's get it going.
Yeah, and being able to scale it back or scale it up. Like you're saying, the in-house bookkeeper, a guy at $100,000 cannot afford to pay. You know what I mean? Like you can't afford to pay a full-time in-house bookkeeper. At $4 or $5 million, it's a necessity. Right. So I think hanging around people, it goes back to your advice at the beginning of the episode, hang around people who are at where you want to be, get advice from them, and then have that plan. At X amount, at $1.5 million, we're going to hire an in-house bookkeeper, and this is going to be a typical salary for our area, and this is how many hours, and X, Y, Z. So you have that plan in place, so when your business reaches that threshold, you can quickly pull the trigger. And again, it's about that opportunity cost, not missed opportunity cost, and capitalizing and reducing those missed opportunities.